Everyone thinks that Cleopatra bathed in milk and honey, but there's actually zero evidence for that whatsoever. So why do we believe that? Where did that come from? And come with me as I actually try to recreate this mythical bath. If you're new here, my name is Katie. I'm an archaeologist. I do all sorts of things here, from archaeological tidbits, and I also do experimental archaeology, usually having to do with beauty routines. So if that interests you whatsoever, make sure to hit that like and subscribe and bell so that you can follow along for all of these exciting experiments. So I wanted to recreate this Cleopatra's bath for two reasons. First, I kind of wanted to unpack this myth and see where it came from and why we believe this. Secondly, I wanted to experience it from a sensory and experimental archaeological perspective. Now, this claim is everywhere. You've probably heard it yourself. I actually just heard a dermatologist on TikTok the other day who said, it is true that Cleopatra bathed in milk and honey, although we have no evidence for that whatsoever. It's not true. She may have, she may not have. We don't know. There's no ancient sources for this, and there's no archaeological evidence for it. Now, we have one relevant ancient source that talks about milk bathing, and this comes from Pliny the Elder, who wrote about this 80 years after Cleopatra's death. He was writing about Poppaea Sabina, who was Nero's wife. She reportedly kept hundreds of donkeys around so that she could bathe regularly in their milk as a part of her beauty routine. So what probably happened is this. We have this elite Roman practice of bathing in milk, although we have no idea how widespread it is at all. This could have been just one person who was a little bit eccentric. And we have Cleopatra, who is now associated with sort of excess and luxury and beauty, and then at some point these two things merged. So what I'm recreating here is not actually Cleopatra's bath, it's actually Poppaea's bath. And in addition to that, to make it Egyptian and to make it something that Cleopatra may have done, I'm adding in honey because that is a part of the myth, and honey was used extensively in ancient Egypt, and that we know for sure. We have strong evidence from texts like the Ebers Papyrus. We know that honey was used extensively in ancient Egypt. It was used cosmetically, it was used medicinally, and it was used for consumption as well. Okay, now the interesting part of this is there's actually a fair amount of biochemical science behind this. So Poppaea was onto something, whether she knew it or not. Milk contains lactose, which is a sugar. Ose generally means sugars, think glucose and fructose. When exposed to bacteria, lactose then becomes lactic acid. And lactic acid is an alpha hydroxy acid. This is just one of the things that I use on my face. As you can see, lactic acid treatment. Here's another thing that I just had milling around in my drawer. Here you go. It's a face mask and it has AHA in it. This is something that is widely used today. People are talking about it all the time. It's a huge thing in K-beauty. This is a really important ingredient within skincare, within the cosmetic world. Again, whether or not she knew anything about this doesn't matter. All she probably knew, all Poppaea probably knew, is that it made her skin look great. So AHA breaks the bond between dead skin cells, acts as a chemical exfoliant. And then when you add in milk, which has fats and proteins, that acts as an emollient. So of course, she is probably feeling that she's coming out of this bath feeling smooth, her skin is glowing, and she's looking fantastic. Even fresh milk contains some lactic acid, but the longer it sits and ferments, the more concentrated that is. So I did try to obtain donkey milk. There were some weird phone calls. I called a few local farm shops and I asked them about donkey's milk. There were definitely some pauses on the other line.
What?
And some people asked me, like, why do you need this and why are you asking about this? And I told them I'm an archaeologist and I'm doing an experiment, and then they were really interested and kind of excited. Alas, I could not obtain donkey's milk, and so I opted for goat's milk instead. I used whole goat's milk, and this is a lot more widely available. You can get this at M&S, you can get this at Sainsbury's, it's kind of everywhere. This is arguably more plausible in a lot of ancient contexts. For the honey, I used raw, unfiltered honey from the honeycomb. I kind of engineered it so that it could just drip naturally down until I got a couple, maybe 3 tablespoons or so. This is the closest analog that would have been available. So I used about 2 liters of goat's milk. It had been sitting all day long in the sun, and then I warmed the honey a tiny bit and I added that together, and then I poured it into the bath, and it really just created this beautiful sort of opaque. I lit some candles for ambiance, and it actually was, you know, whether or not it was the milk or the honey or the intention behind it of just sort of relaxing, it was a really, really nice bath. The other thing that's interesting to consider is that bathing kind of means different things in different cultures. I mean, it still does now. Egypt, bathing would have been about cleanliness, it would have been about ritual, and scent probably would have played a really big role, although that's true in a lot of ancient contexts. In ancient Rome, bathing definitely social, it was more performative, so there's a lot of cultural layers to this before you even get to Cleopatra. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I fully intended on rinsing off after I took my bath, after I did this on cameras because I was just convinced that it was going to be tacky and sticky feeling, but it wasn't. I did not rinse this off at all. I went to bed with this on, and I don't know, my skin really did feel smooth. Maybe it was kind of placebo, but it felt like I had a light lotion on, almost like a hydrating toner or something like that. Cleopatra may not have done this. She may have done this, but regardless, ancient people were onto something. My name is Katie. I'm an archaeologist. Follow for more experimental archaeology like this, and stay curious, but stay critical.